Good afternoon, Dawson County school employees. Toby and I are excited to be with you this afternoon. My name is Amy Mulvane. I am an account executive at Arista Consulting Group. Toby is a financial planner at Arista Consulting Group, and together we help service Dawson County's supplemental 403B retirement plan. So today in our workshop, we're going to be talking about preparing for retirement. And I know if you're looking at Toby and I right now, we look a little bit casual, but today we have on our workout clothes, because when we think about preparing for retirement, we realize that this is an art of exercising. It's something that you have to continue to practice at, to be good at. When you're talking about financial planning, it's not just something that you wake up to and you arrive at, right? A lot of times when we're thinking about our health and we're thinking about fitness, we have this goal where we want to be in shape, especially today it's 70 something degrees outside, and it makes us start thinking about going on vacation and wearing shorts. So we're thinking, oh, we got to get in shape for those type things. Well, it's not going to happen unless we put the work into it. And that's how retirement is. You're not going to just arrive to retirement prepared. You're going to have to put a little work, and that means a little bit of sweat, but the reward's going to be great. So today, Toby's got a great presentation for us that's titled Preparing for Retirement. Are you ready? And if your answer is no, don't feel like you're less than anybody else, because it's really hard to think about planning for retirement when we're still trying to figure out how to make it week to week in our own family situation. So with that, Toby, go ahead and take it away and help us on the path of preparing for retirement.
Well, that was a great introduction, Amy. I mean, the whole workout thing, now I know why you told me to wear my Under Armour, whatever it is. So, hey.
Not that we support Under Armour and not Nike, right? We're not here to do that.
I'm sure there's a whole political discussion about that. So anyway. All right, so preparing for retirement. So like Amy said, I'm a financial planner, and I spend my day helping people prepare for retirement, whether that's in the near future for some of you lucky people maybe, or in the distant future for some of those. This presentation hopefully will give whichever spectrum you're on a couple of takeaways. We're gonna email out a worksheet at the end of this that's gonna tie a lot of this stuff together. But I just want to go through some key things to think about. And these are things, like Amy said, these are things that we want you to start thinking about on a more regular basis. Because, as you think about your finances and retirement, it is a journey, right? It's never too early. It's never too late. You are where you are. And that part of this will kind of help show you right where you are today. And, it's going to be up to you to do the work and, make the adjustments and the pivots that you might need to make if you're not quite where you are. But I'm going to start with the end in mind, right? So where do I start? So I want you to think about retirement. Like anytime I talk to a teacher or another client or whomever it is, and they start mentioning, hey, I'm thinking about retirement. What do I need to do? This is usually where I tell people to start. What do you want retirement to look like, right? You turn in your final notice. You're done. It's the end of the school year. You're doing cartwheels if you're still able to do those. I wouldn't be able to do those, but Amy probably would, and I know her daughters would, that's for sure. But what do you want retirement to look like? It's hard to go. I tell people, don't go into retirement blindly, right? And again, I don't care if it's 2 months away or if it's 10 years away. Have a picture of what do you think retirement would look like. If you are married, I would highly encourage you to have that discussion with your spouse. It's probably not a good idea for you both to go in retirement with two entirely different pictures in mind. That won't end well for the relationship, I wouldn't think. But do you want to travel? Do you want to hunt? Do you want to, do you want to be on a boat? Whatever it is, get an idea of what you want to do. We'll talk a little bit about health. That's a big part of everybody's retirement. How healthy are you? And that ties right into Amy's whole little setup on the exercise thing. One of the best things you can do now, regardless of where you are, is take care of yourself, right? The better job you do caring for yourself, the more money you're going to have to spend on other things, not health related issues, right? And the more fun you're going to have because you're healthy and able to enjoy retirement. So,
hey, Toby, I want to interject just real quick.
Go ahead, because I got to make a change anyway. Go.
Something to be thinking about when you're talking about health and what your retirement picture looks like. a lot of us have this idea of what we think our sunset years is going to look like. And then oftentimes life happens, whether to ourselves or to our spouse's health, when we get closer to those years. And it prevents us from being able, to really enjoy those sunset years the way that we had pictured them in our head. So, whatever stage you're at, you're never too young to be thinking about long-term care. And we're not here today to start promoting those types of things, but these are things that you may need to specifically reach out to Toby about for your situation to consider. I know personally with my parents, they're in retirement. My dad has dementia. We were not planning that as his path. It's nowhere in our family tree that we can find. So that really took us off guard. And once you're diagnosed with these things, you can't get long-term care and you can't get things that you may need. So that drastically has changed my parents' path for retirement. So all that to say, it's easy when you're young and you're healthy to not think about those things. But when you're thinking about your retirement, you also need to be thinking about what branches of different things maybe do I need coverage with to help protect my retirement income when I get to retirement.
Yeah, Amy, that's great. That actually kind of brings you back to, Amy and I, we're here to help you with your entire picture, right? Not just one portion of your finances. We're not trying, like she said, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to help you kind of piece it all together, have a plan, be a resource if you have questions or need help along the way. And we can help you put a plan together, and you can go to your local, Edward Jones guy or whatever and tell him, hey, here's what I need to implement. We're fine with that. We just want to, give you some things to think about to help you put the whole picture together, so that picture you have of retirement does turn out, as much as possible the way you wanted. So going back to the slides, it all starts with a budget, right? If I'm talking to somebody that's brand new to teaching or education or careers, I'm going to tell them to do a budget. But it's just as important to think about that budget as you think about retirement, right? Again, what's it going to look like? You got to know what's going to be coming in when you retire. You got to know what's going to be going out when when you're there, and what are all the big costs. So, identifying where all the money goes is a critical piece of making sure that retirement picture that you have is gonna be the way it is. And when you think about the budgets, there's things you can control. There's things you can organize to be ready. But it's really about making sure you're in a position to optimize the dollars that are coming in to make it most enjoyable for you as you get toward retirement. And then just I tell everybody to write down your expenses, right? There's fixed expenses and there's variable expenses, right? The fixed expenses we know they just come every month. Your taxes, your mortgage, utilities, insurance. If you've got an automobile, those are the things that are easy to budget because you know exactly what they are. And some of those you're going to, prioritize of which one are you trying to pay off soon? Can I get that mortgage paid off? So by the time I retire, I no longer have a mortgage payment, right? Can I get the car paid off and stay in good shape so I don't have a car payment when I'm in retire? Taxes are a way of life. Those aren't going away. They may be going up, they may be going down, but those are there to stay. And then there's all the variable stuff, right? These are all things that you can kind of control how much you spend in each category. Medical care is probably a little bit of a wild card. That's harder to budget, but how much you're going to spend on vacations, or at least how much you want to spend on vacations. You know how much you spend if you're eating out 3 days a week versus staying home those 2 extra days. But you got to have those all in categorized, so exactly what's going to be going out when you retire, right? And then think about the income. What's the other side of that? Here's am I still going to work when I retire, or am I how much longer am I working to continue to save? Do I do some stuff on the side? Maybe whatever it is, you got a part-time job that you collect a little extra money. For those on this call, at least the teachers and staff, what your TRS is going to be. And that's a huge, huge advantage that, those in your position, those in that position have, because it's a pension that most people don't have. Right. And what the dollar is going to be, right? You can run those numbers, if I work X number of years, I'm going to have X number of dollars for the rest of my life. And I would encourage you constantly, keep an eye on that as you get closer and closer toward retirement. call TRS and run the numbers, run the analysis of, hey, if I work one more year, what does that do to my monthly number? Can I buy back a year and retire a year earlier than I thought without it affecting my retirement? And then you got the other sources of income. Maybe you or your spouse has a different pension, right? Then there's the IRA distributions, which basically means you've got your 403B that hopefully everybody on this call is contributing to. You've got those assets that you can set up an automatic distribution plan, if you move it into an IRA, or even if you leave it in the 403B plan. And you may or may not qualify for Social Security. You may not, your spouse may. So you know exactly what those numbers are going to be. And then it's the easy, do the math. What's my income? What are my expenses? And is the number red or green? If it's green, you're probably in pretty good shape. If it's red, it's time to go back to the spreadsheets and make some adjustments. You either got to find a way to increase the income, or you're going to have to find a way to decrease those expenses, right? It's not difficult to figure out. However, as we all probably know, it can be very difficult to execute, right? It's easy to put it on paper and say, here's what I got to do. It's a little bit harder when Amazon Prime Day comes around and you suddenly need a $500 massage chair or whatever it is, right? So you got to put it on paper. You got to agree to it with your spouse if you're married, and then you got to execute, right? It's no different than working out. You can know exactly what you got to do. You can hire a trainer and he says, hey, here's a 90-day plan for you to lose 15 pounds. The hard part is when you want a brownie at 10 o'clock at night, you shouldn't, right? So anyway, do the work. Now we're going to talk a little bit about net worth, and this just kind of we talked a little bit about this last time, I believe. But again, as you're headed toward retirement, or even if it's farther away, you want a good idea of exactly where you are. This next step will do that. What are your assets? Do you have a checking account? Do you have a savings account? How much is in your retirement plan? Do you own a house? Do you have a couple cars? Anything additional? Be honest. Don't tell me you just bought a brand new $30,000 car and 6 months later it's still worth $30,000. That's not the way it works. Be realistic with what the values actually are. The good news now is if you have a home, the home value is probably higher than it's ever been with the crazy real estate market that we're seeing now. That could be a good thing for some people, and it certainly is going to help your overall net worth. And then go through your liabilities. These are not your expenses. These are your liabilities. This is your mortgage payment. This is any other credit cards and cars. This is the major liabilities. Usually they're tied to an asset, but those are your liabilities. And then there's your net worth. What's your assets, liabilities? If you're not happy with the number, use it as motivation to change it, right? Say, hey, I'm going to make this number different. 1 year from now, it's going to be X amount different. I'm going to flip this way. And here's how I'm going to do it, right? Putting this stuff on paper makes it jump out to you, and it gives you motivation, hopefully, to make whatever change you need to make if you're not happy with the number. If you're happy with it, and you're like, I am right on track, great. Now hey, I'm doing the things I need to do. I just got to keep it up, and I'm going to plug on and be ready to go down the road. I'm going to go through this one quickly. Net worth's important for all the reasons I just said, but it also helps. Amy talked a little bit about insurance and stuff. It does give you some ideas. Hey, if I've got X amount of net worth, do I need to insure that for kids, estate, whatever? It does give you some other points of reference. But the last one's what I think is most important. It really tells you where you are in the progress toward the goals that you're trying to make. Social Security, I'm going to go through this quick, but I get asked it all the time. Everybody that is eligible for Social Security, you can start taking it as early as 62, right? Full age is 67. This may be relevant to you. It may be relevant to your spouse. The longer you wait, the higher the benefit is, right? So if somebody on this call has longevity in their family and you're like, hey, we got a good chance of living to 85, 90, 95. If you can afford to delay Social Security till later in life, 67 or even 70, you're going to end up better off long-term, right? So it's a kind of a morbid discussion sometimes because you're kind of playing the death game. If you plan on dying early, take it early. But if you think you've got some, chances to live a long time, because it does go up significantly the longer you can wait. When we talk about retirement, this is just a general number. you're going to want approximately, I think 75 is a little low, probably closer to 90% of your current income in order to maintain the same kind of lifestyle you have. But this gives you an idea of, hey, here's what our current income is. We know what our standard of living is. When we retire, we can probably reduce that a little bit. And in order to do that, we're going to take our current income, multiply it by 75 or 90%. There's your income that you're going to need in retirement. Now, the advantage of you that have TRS, that number's probably going to be covering 40 to 60%, depending on your length of service, right? Like if you're a full 30 years in, you got 60% of your 2 highest years. You've got a vast majority of that covered. The supplemental retirement plan becomes what fills the gap, right? Or your spouse's, 401k plan, if that's what they have. Little bit of Social Security and stuff. But this is how you close that gap between let's call it 60%. Let's assume you're working the full 30 years. You're still going to need an additional, 15, 20% to come from somewhere. The supplemental retirement plan is a great way to fill that gap from what's missing.
And for the employees of Dawson County, since you guys do not pay into Social Security, if you have any questions related to that and the fact that maybe your spouse is paying into Social Security, those type things, if you want to reach out to Toby directly at the end of the presentation, we will have our contact information. He's a great resource to kind of help you dig to the bottom of what that retirement picture will look like for you.
Yeah, Amy, that's a great point. And yeah, and I will give everyone my contact information. And when we tell you that, if you want to reach out and schedule some time, do it with your spouse, right? This isn't just for you. This is for you, your family, whomever. I do calls, Zoom calls at 6 o'clock at night because, hey, I want, my husband and I want to do this together to make sure we're on the same page. I am more than happy to do that. This just shows the different sources of income in retirement. I haven't changed the pie graph the way I should because this is geared toward the normal corporate world where you see like government employee pensions at only 8%. Yours obviously is a much bigger piece of that pie. But again, between you and your spouse, if you're married, these are your sources of income, right? Is it somebody's Social Security or TRS? Those are kind of either or depending on what you do. Maybe your spouse is fortunate enough to have a different kind of pension that is more and more rare every day, it seems like. Then you got income that's going to come from your assets, from your retirement plans. And then maybe you're doing some part-time, whatever to supplement some extra income. So when I help people think about retirement, inflation's always a piece of it because what everything costs today is not going to be what it's going to cost in 10 years. These are just some average numbers of a few things. A house in Florida, $285 today, it's going to be $100,000 more in 10 years. And we make sure we help people plan that. When I tell somebody, I did this with somebody last night, they wanted $75,000 a year when they retired. That was going to be that was their target number. Well, they're in their early 60s. By the time they're 90, just based on inflation, they're now spending about $180,000 a year, right? And we have to help plan to make sure your assets are growing. You might get some cost of living increases in Social Security or your TRS. It's not guaranteed, so I like to kind of, play with those things on a worst case basis. But you got to plan that, hey, whatever we're spending in dollar amounts today, it's going to cost more to do the same thing in 5 years and 10 years, certainly in 20 years. Because again, the other, it's catch 22. A lot of teachers are fortunate enough to be in a spot where they get their 30 years, they're 55, right? They may have 45 years in retirement to account for, and that's a long time. But it's certainly something that we're here to help with if you got questions. And this is why, right? We talked about this a little bit. Amy mentioned long-term care. Life expectancy keeps going up, right? We may have thought it was going down dramatically this time last year because we were all about to die from the pandemic. But now there's vaccines that came out quick. But you look at and I could make a joke about women living longer than males, but I think that goes without saying because y'all are a whole lot smarter than we are. So naturally you're gonna live longer. But I did see a statistic the other day that the percentage of chances of a married couple of one of them living past 80 is upwards of 80+%. And it's even getting, in the 70s that somebody's going to live to 90. So, it does take some planning. I try to encourage people, don't try to do all the planning on your own, ask for some help. But you do need to plan on living for a while. And, fortunately with TRS, you got that guaranteed benefit for life, right? That's not going away. That is a incredibly big advantage that you have that most of Americans don't. So I know you've made a lot of sacrifices to end up with that benefit, but retirement is the time to enjoy that and to reap the benefits of 20, 30 years in education, helping kids get through things, and, sacrificing all the sacrifices that y'all have made. But, life expectancy is a big deal as you think about health and all that stuff, because, the longer you are there, the more it plays a factor. So we're going to start wrapping this up in a second. I'm going to open it up for questions if anybody has. As a follow-up, I'm going to send out a couple of pamphlets that have a lot of the stuff that we talked about. It'll give you some charts and some worksheets to plug through budgets and net worths and expenses. A lot of the things we covered. It'll give you some places to, kind of write down your goals as you get toward retirement. And again, the more you can write some stuff down, put it on paper, review it on an annual basis at least to make sure what you thought was your goals, are still the same goals and they haven't changed. See how you're, plugging along with your finances. And then, those of you that are thinking toward retirement and getting there, this is just a little bit of kind of some key ages where things make a difference. Once you hit age 50, you're eligible to add an additional amount to your, it says 401k, but it's 403b as well. You can, right now, the maximum you can put in a 403b if you're under 50 is 19,500. Once you hit 50, you can make what's called catch-up contributions. That's an additional 6,500. That may or may not be realistic, but it is just know that whether it's you, your spouse, whatever, at age 50, you can start, catching up if you're behind, if you will, in your retirement plans. 59 and a half is an important age, especially probably for a lot of people on this call. That is the age where there's no penalties for pulling money out of your retirement plan, right? So we get a lot of folks that are, teachers that retire at age 55. I encourage them, make sure you're in a position not to need to pull those assets until you hit 59 and a half. You certainly can. It's your money. You have 100% access to it. But in addition to paying ordinary income taxes, you're also going to get hit with a 10% penalty before that age. Once you're 59 and a half, free reign, you pay taxes as you would expect, but there's no more penalties. You may not be eligible for Social Security, but if your spouse is, 62 is the number you got to get there to start drawing Social Security. 66, 67, depending on when you were born, is when you hit full retirement age from a Social Security standpoint and get more maximum benefit. And then age 72 is when you actually have to start taking some withdrawals out of that retirement plan if you hadn't begun some already. So just a couple of kind of key things to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, we're definitely here to help. We want to make sure you have a plan. We want to make sure that, our mission at Arista is to lead people to financial security, right? And Amy and I's goals of doing this is, hey, is something we said helps you take one step that direction, then we feel like we've been successful. We want to do whatever we can to help you get there, to help you be able to live retirement the way you've got it pictured in your head. And if it doesn't look like you're on track, let us help you kind of take some additional steps, make some adjustments to get you on track. It's never too early. It's never too late. Where you are is where you are, right? There's no fudging. This thing with finances is you can't really fudge where you are. I can't tell myself I've got a net worth of X if I really don't, right? It is what it is. But you can make the adjustments, and we're here to help.
Yeah, thank you, Toby. That's such a great reminder. Just like you said earlier, use this time to talk to your spouse, your significant other, include even your kids in the conversations. I know it's hard. A lot of people don't want to talk finances with all their family members, but it's such a valuable lesson to help teach. Listen, we're all going to have to deal with finances in our life, right? They're not going anywhere. So it's the way that the world works. So the more goals that you can set together and the more small steps you can, take together to get there, the more satisfying it's going to feel when you arrive. So please take advantage of this opportunity. Reach out to Toby directly. I'd like to just open up the forum just a little bit. If you're not comfortable unmuting and asking a question, if you'd like to use the chat feature and type out your question so it's more anonymous, we can just read it and try to answer it for you. Also, if you have a topic that you'd like for Toby or I to discuss in these workshops, we're going to be doing them monthly for a while. So if there's something on your mind concerning retirement planning or your finances, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Toby with that topic. Odds are, if you're struggling with it, someone else is too. So let's tackle it together. Take advantage of the opportunity to meet with Toby individually. It doesn't cost you anything. He can help assess your situation and set you on the right path individually. And like he said before, that's our mission here at Arista, is to help lead you to financial security. And we do consider that a big honor for sure.
And I will say, when I send out the follow-up worksheets, it will also include a link to my calendar. So if you want to just click that link, schedule a 15, 30-minute consultation, that's the easiest way to do that. And if there's a time that does, it's blocked off till 5 o'clock. If you want something later, shoot me an email. I am happy to accommodate. I just keep it on there to keep things a little simpler.
Doesn't look like right now that there's any questions. We are giving away a $25 Amazon gift card for someone that has attended this meeting. So Beth, if you will make sure that we have all the names of the people that attended today, we'll be sure to spin them in our system to pick a winner. And then we will send that Amazon gift card out digitally to you.
I have everyone's names, except there is someone on an iPhone, and I do not have their name, and it's not like it was last week. I could see a phone number. So
okay, well, if you're labeled iPhone and that's you, reach out to Beth through email or give her a phone call and let her know your mysterious name. We'll make sure that you're included in the drawing as well.
I hope it's not somebody auditing the presentation or something. I might be in trouble. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for your time. Let us know how we can help, and hopefully y'all can get outside and enjoy this beautiful weather we got this evening.
Yes. Great to be with you guys today. Thank you.
thank you, guys.